If I told you that less is more, you would probably believe me, right? Unfortunately, most people's brains think that more is more. It just makes sense. The more you work, the more returns you get out. The hedonic treadmill in its purest form. As a runner or even in your career/school life, you work hard, you get the results. From understanding the law of diminishing returns to exploring historical perceptions of effort and reward, we're going on a journey that's part facts, part theories, and 100% something that you need as a runner and just a human in general. We'll debunk myths with a fun real-world example, balance the scales of a risk versus reward, and argue why sometimes less is really the best. Expect to learn about focusing on higher output, not just more input, and why this approach might just transform your training and life for the better. Stick around until the end, and I promise you that you'll leave with a fresh perspective on training and life that could change the way you run, work, and live. Let's go. Quick note, this will fall between my self-named categories of facts, theories, and opinions, probably skewing more towards the side of theories and opinions, as it's hard to objectively know how every person trains and how their body adapts to stresses in their life, etc. All right, so the sweet spot for daily running for maximum health is somewhere in the middle. So you want a lot of fitness and a lot of health and kind of make the balance. All around us, seemingly unrelated things follow the same pattern, from career, work to physical exertion to parenting strategies. When a non-runner starts running, they will immediately see the benefits. Your entire body will transform for the better. Muscles and bones get stronger, heart and lungs expand, brain functioning, and hormones normalize. Training your way up from running around the block to becoming a 2-miler runner still brings great benefits, just slightly smaller. The 5th through the 20th mile turns you into a hyper-efficient machine. All about that zone 2, baby. If you're lucky, sarcasm inserted, some people start seeing joint injuries as they rise through the ranks. And by the time you reach the fringe world of 100-mile ultra runners, serious injuries and surgeries are completely normal, as well as unexpected organ failures in otherwise young, healthy people. That's an excerpt from the sweet spot of physical training adapted by the frugal finance hacking Mr. Money Mustache and his blog post. And I'm just taking that way out of context, but inserting it here because it's so relevant. Everything is linear in our heads, history, and the stories that we tell ourselves and others. So naturally, our experiences and outcomes should be linear too, correct? Not really. Here's a graph of the United States non-farm labor productivity from Trading Economics. As you can see, a lot of cool stuff is happening here, but I won't go into details of that. Moving forward, I'll use the example of training for a half marathon/full marathon because that's what I enjoy. Well, the half marathon, not the full, and I know it pretty well. You can insert whatever activity or thing that you do. Also, I would insert the 5K. This whole thing takes into account that you are a motivated individual who knows that they cannot run for 5 minutes 3 times a week and expect to complete a marathon in under 3 hours or their best time ever. We all live in a universe that abides by the laws of physics, unfortunately or fortunately. I'll assume in this whole thing that, like a lot of type A personalities that you probably are, you do the actual work. So you show up, so much so that you usually do more work than necessary because we get addicted to this whole fitness cardio thing. And sometimes to the point of feeling tired and run down from all of your training. That's all the assumptions that I need to put into play, because if you just read this as it is, you'll be like, what? So I'm going to only say that once. The risk versus the reward. With running, the most elite and pro runners tend to run 6 to 7 days a week, and sometimes even twice a day. They are professional, and for every 0.01% gain they can get, they try to get it. They risk injury and burnout to get that 0.01% gain because winning pays the bills sometimes. So the risk is worth the reward to them for a short period of time. Now, for an amateur or novice, they most likely won't be winning anything outside of the local yokel 5K park run, which I finally did. Check the link back in 2018. Putting in more effort most likely will give them diminishing returns while increasing the dreaded, I call this the IIGB scenario, injury, illness, and or general burnout, which is an acronym that I made up, and I'll keep running with it because I think it's dope, IIGB. For the sake of knowing this whole scope and understanding the scope of what I'm talking about, here are a few quick numbers to break it down and make it a bit more tangible. I and most novice advanced runners run anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes, so about 5 to 8 kilometers, 3 to 5 miles, a few days a week, sometimes a little bit more, and then look to do a once a week long run, anywhere from 1 to 2 hours, 10 to 20 kilometers, 6 to 12 miles, depending on what I'm training for. So that's kind of like the sweet spot for me. Less is more? No, less is best. Okay, stay with me on this as I'll get a bit into the quantifiable theory territory, but it's a fun thought experiment. Theory with not too much scientific evidence. So let's go. What happens when I double my input and turn those 30-minute weekly runs into 1-hour runs? What if I double my long run to 3 hours, to 4 hours? Insert sarcasm. Surely I would get double the output of overall fitness, economy, and speed, right? No. Well, first of all, I will most likely experience the IIGB scenario, illness, injury, and/or general burnout, if I did see gains, and I'd estimate that they would be in the range of anything from 1.05 to 1.2 times, which would be 5 to 20% in reality, is almost too generous. This is ironically similar gains to what I was getting when I was running 30 to 45 minutes a few times a week with the weekly 1 to 2 hour long run. So again, this is all theoretical. I'm sure you can agree that these are very marginal gains, while I increase the risk of all the injury, burnout, illness, etc. scenario to 5 or even 10x more. So the output reward is only 1.2, where the risk is like 2, 5, 10x. You get it. Again, these are crude estimated numbers based on my own training, and because of so many factors like my or your genetics, running history, intensity, duration, and lifestyle, your results may vary greatly from mine. A bit more research around where the point of diminishing returns in aerobic fitness / VO2 max can be found at the link in the show notes or the YouTube description or wherever you are. Contrary to what most people think, double input doesn't mean double output linear gains. Unfortunately, those feelings and emotions that X input equals Y output trump logic. So why do most people think more is the question. Helping you focus your higher quality output. From my discovery process, which is scientific research, speaking with experts, and my own experience, we tend to go more is more because we are just programmed like that. Linear is just easier. Our society from the start of the agricultural farming revolution had the double input and double your output mentality. It also worked in the industrial factory revolution, and it worked up until the technology revolution, the knowledge-based office work. If you wanted to make double your money in the 1950s, you worked 80 hours a week instead of 40 hours by working the day and night shift. Hell, some companies like the US Post Office would pay extra for working nights and overtime. So why not? Seemed to be much simpler days back in that time. Unfortunately, in the present day and moving forward, I'm going to assume that's not the case right now and will not be the case. The same could be said about computers and technology. So for you nerds, processors are not getting bigger. They are getting more efficient and economical. Multi-core processors and many threads. So AI is another instance. They're not doubling because it's not making it that much better. They do this by being built smaller and more effective and engineered to use less power and do more things. This is a very crude example, and a mechanical computer engineer will most likely write me a stern email. Apologies in advance, but feel free. talk@dlatecreates.com. I love it all. Send comments below. Like computers, this is how I think you should treat your training, life, relationships, etc. Try to be more effective by focusing on the right things, which usually means you become more efficient. Less is usually best. Be a Prius and get crazy output for very low input. They're hybrid cars, I think, fully electric. Hell, be a Tesla. As far as actual energy goes, it's solar, damn it. The sun is literally infinite and provides all the energy we need for this world. Not literally infinite, but we have a whole lot of energy from the sun if we can harness it. I feel once you start living and thinking more critically about things, you can then input a fraction more of your effort units to yield the results of an efficient, effective, and better life. I'm obsessed with this stuff. It's not even a productivity thing. It's just more like, how can we just work with the flow of life and get the most out of it? Bonus, the ex-co-host of the show, Phil Cross, and I ended up going back and forth about the meaning of this, and he really poked some holes in what the point I was trying to make. It's a fun listen, so make sure to listen or watch the podcast version of this, as your argument might be similar to his. Feel free to hit me up on Instagram or email me at talk@dlatecreates.com, spelled the normal way, if you want to push back on this or you agree. Big plug. I love working with people on creative things and also, their life, trying to make themselves 1% better. I love setting ambitious goals and objectives and going after them like a journey, because it's all about the journey. Health and fitness processes and systems are creative journeys by nature. So I'm totally open to helping anyone collaborating in the health, fitness, wellness, running, endurance, sports space. Hit me up. Again, talk@delayedcreates.com. Links below, DMs, wherever you are. Thanks again for rocking with me. Peace.